All right, stand by. 10 seconds.
Ready, camera,
Show. Count.
Ready, camera.
And cue talent.
2, 1.
Roll for record.
Maryland couples in trouble yet again for daring to let their kids go play in a park. I'm John Phillips, and free-range kids are at the top of today's rundown. Alexander and Danielle Matev have had their children taken into custody repeatedly and been warned they could be put into foster care by Child Protective Services, all for letting their 10-year-old son and 6-year-old daughter walk to the library or the park alone or together and play outside without supervision. Is parental paranoia endangering kids more than letting them roam free? Or is the world such a dangerous place nowadays that anyone who isn't a helicopter parent is negligent? Joining me to answer these questions and much, much more is PJTV contributor Scott Ott. And here in Los Angeles, stand-up comic and PJTV contributor Stephen Kruiser. Scott, you're the parent. Well, actually, you're both parents, but Scott, we'll start with you. What do you make of this? Because it seems to me like the safe route to go if you're a parent is to have your kids stay in the house nonstop, let them play video games, and get so fat that they eventually explode because they're never outside getting exercise. Is that what we want?
Yeah, it seems to be what we want. I mean, that's what, if you're to believe the coverage in the news, yeah. I mean, the fact that there is even a term such as free-range children is abhorrent to me and should be to every American. There was never such, I mean, you were a child when I was a kid, you know, when I was young, you were a child. If you went outside to play, you were a child who's outside playing. And frankly, my grandmother who raised us, my grandparents raised us, would come in on a Saturday morning. She'd let us watch an hour or two of cartoons, but then she would come in and hit the Zenith TV button off, and she'd say, "Get outside and blow the stink off you." And she would send us out into the woods. She knew not where we would spend hours at a time with no cell phones. She had no clue where we were, and her only rule was we had to be back by mealtime. That's what childhood is supposed to be. It's a time to learn, a time to grow, a time to explore. And the fact that parents are so afraid that a kid can't even walk to the library or the park, I think says more about the mainstream media than it does about parents. And I think this is I'm glad you're bringing this subject up, because we need to fight this tooth and nail.
You know, Chris, when I was growing up, I used to ride my bike around the neighborhood by myself without my mother with me. My brother and I would do it. Sometimes the neighbors or our friends would come with us. My mom would drop us off at the movie theater, and we would see a movie, typically one that she wasn't interested in, and we were in the movie theater by ourselves. Everything was fine. Was I a victim of child abuse?
No, I think this is one of those things where I don't think there's a blanket way to address it. I mean, if you're living in a town with 4,000 people, it's different than if you're living in West Los Angeles with your kid. You know, there are mitigating circumstances all over the place here. That's why I think it's difficult to just look at it with a broad brushstroke. Like when I was a kid, I lived in San Diego for a little while, and when I was in kindergarten, we'd walk to school. It was 8, 9 blocks away. And we'd other kids in the neighborhood. We all just drifted together. Things were very different, though. All the parents in the neighborhood knew each other, which was a huge part of it then. Now, not so much in a lot of big cities anymore. Everybody doesn't know each other in a neighborhood. So I see nothing wrong with letting the kid go if the parents determine that it's safe for the child to go. The state should definitely not be getting involved in that. But the world is a far creepier place now than it used to be, too.
You know what I blame for this? I blame political correctness. Because we're told that it's not good to stereotype. We're told that you shouldn't make assumptions about certain people just because of what they look like or who they are. But Scott, I grew up with the most discriminatory parents on the planet in a good way, because my mom taught me when I was a young child, from the point at which I could understand what she was saying, if you're at the candy store and there's some middle-aged guy hanging out by himself, stay away from him, because that's a problem. That's not supposed to happen. If there are people that look like they don't belong in certain areas, if you've got, you know, a place, a Chuck E. Cheese where there's tons of kids, and some guy shows up without any kids, be aware that that guy stands out, and you need to be in a safe place or be around other adults. Isn't that the lesson that we should be teaching children? To use their instincts and understand the world around them, not to live in bubble wrap?
Absolutely. And when you say we, that means you and me and Kruiser and the parents of this country should be teaching our children this lesson, not the government. The government has no role in this. If you look at this story the way it really happened, what happened is these parents had their children kidnapped by the police. The police picked these kids up and kept them for hours without allowing them to have contact with the parents. You know, what's your fear when you send your kids out, that somebody's going to kidnap them? Well, in this case, the police were the kidnappers. Now, Maryland apparently has a state law that says that a child under 8 must be accompanied by somebody over 13 years old, or 13 or older, and otherwise, you know, Child Protective Services is going to get involved. Child Protective Services has no business getting involved. Parents should be the ones to determine when and where their kids can travel. And you can't say, well, you know, if some kid gets kidnapped, you say, oh, well, therefore we have to shut down every parent's right to govern how their children's lives go.
You know, Polly Klaas got abducted in her bedroom when she was at her house with her parents there, with other kids that were there. It was a sleepover that was going on because Richard Allen Davis, who was a repeat offender, was able to get into the house and abduct her. The problem here, as I see it, Stephen Kruiser, is that we have this revolving door of criminals where we don't, especially here in California with Jerry Brown's new program, we don't keep the bad guys in jail anymore. And if you have the bad guys out on the street, then sometimes bad things are going to happen to kids. But don't go after the parents. Don't go after the kids for the state capitol's mistake and by not keeping the bad guys in jail.
Oh yeah, I mean, what Scott was talking about, the cops getting involved with this, and then what you just pointed out, the cops are like working on the wrong end of this completely. Law enforcement is really focusing on the wrong thing here, and it is. I have a daughter. You know, I want to follow her everywhere with a Gatling gun, 24/7. That's what I've wanted to do since she was a little child. The world is a creepy place, and it's not always the journey. Like you said, once you get to the candy store, there's a creeper there. Someone can get into your home. That elementary school I was talking about that I went to, that I used to walk to, the kindergarten was out in front of the school, and it's the same school that in 1979 that crazy chick shot up and was killing people at the kindergarten. So the kids were already safe at school. So you can't battle everything, and it is a scary, scary world. But this also, you can't make your kids weak, and I think that's a big problem in society today too. With the helicopter parenting, it makes kids weak. They think the parents are always going to be there. They're not independent thinkers. It's a mess all around, but it needs to be dealt with on an individual parenting basis, not
Tell me if there's a connection here. You have a generation of parents that are helicopter parents that have their kids growing up in bubble wrap. Their kids never experience the real world. Their kids never experience what life is like on the outside when you have to take care of yourself. They then go to college and they don't know how to behave. So they start the binge drinking, they stay out all night, bad things happen. And really they're experiencing life away from their parents for the first time, and they do all the wrong things. For every parental action, there will be an equal and opposite young adult reaction. That's always been one of my theories. I mean, if you bring children up in an almost consequence-free environment, once they get out in the real world, nothing but no good can come of that, none whatsoever. Is there a connection there, Scott?
I think there is, and I liken this to the way families treat guns. I mean, we had guns in our household growing up. We all knew where the guns were. We did not know where the ammo was. My grandfather kept that locked up separate from that. And anytime we needed to use a gun, when we became of age and we were trained to do so, my grandfather would make the ammo available to us. And as we got older, we were at liberty to go out and hunt on our own. We didn't have to always go to him. And there was never a problem. We didn't act in an irresponsible manner around guns because they were a constant presence in our life. And I think Kruiser's right. When you get out, when you're not used to functioning on your own, when you're not used to the adventure of life outdoors, and all of a sudden it's thrust upon you, you behave in irresponsible ways and perhaps dangerous ways. All right, Scott Ott, you get the last word. So what do you think? Are these parents negligent? Or is letting kids roam free vital for raising them to be both healthy and happy? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm John Phillips. Thanks so much for watching The Rundown.
All right, stand by. 10 seconds.
Ready, camera,
Count.
ready, camera.
Roll for record.
3, 2, 1.
Roll for record.